Board of Selectmen meeting dated on Monday, October 24th, 2016, here at 6:30. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's good to see everybody. Anybody get a chance to look at the minutes for 10, 11, 16?
I don't have minutes for 10/11. I have minutes for 9/26. What do you mean, 10/11? Today's 10.
That's wrong.
Oh, okay.
It's 9/20. I'm sorry, the September 26, 2016 minutes.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the minutes for Monday, September 26th, as written.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any other discussion? I see none. John?
Yes.
Julie?
I'll abstain as I wasn't here that night.
Understood. Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. The date on the agenda that says 10/11/16 was the wrong date. That was a mistake. The minutes that we just voted in was for September 26th, 2016. Okay, we'll get a point Conservation Commission.
I make a motion to appoint Brittany Gessner to the Conservation Commission. Is there planning board in there?
Why did we hold off on that till about 10? She's on her way. Is that okay? We move it?
I don't get to make that decision. Just don't second it. Did you second it, Aaron?
No.
Okay, so we'll hold off.
We're going to hold off for Brittany.
Both appointments or just one?
Just Brittany. She's on her way.
Oh, okay.
Okay. We could do Harry Aldrich.
I make a motion to appoint Harry Aldrich to the Insurance Advisory Committee for a term to expire, June 30th, 2019.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion concerning Mr. Aldrich? I see none. John?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. We'll wait for Brittany. We'll come back to that. Presentation by the financial team. First quarter FY17 finances.
Okay. You have in your packet the quarterly report that we've combined or compiled for you. You'll see in the first section, I've gone through for the first quarter, first 3 months, all the expenses, the budget versus actual reports, and I've come up with 22 line items that have different issues, and you have all the details there. So if you were to see any questions of anything that's over the 25 percentile range, you'll see there and why the research on that. So that should answer any questions that you might have. The only 2 items that I think we're potentially going to have a problem with is the snow and ice deficit, and then the group insurance. We're running ahead of that, and I've done some additional calculations, and we potentially could need around, close to 40,000, but we just have to see where we are. With the fluctuation of employees in and out throughout the year, we might be able to, make that up. As far as the revenues at this point, we seem to be on track. I know in the tax collector's office, just, today we have had lots and lots of business. They've taken in a lot of taxes today and expect to take in a lot this week.
my assessor's report. I know you received information packets, so I'll just go over something briefly in those information packets. We're moving forward for the tax rate setting process. In our office, it's all about the numbers. So to date, the LA 13, which is the new growth for the town for fiscal 17, has been submitted and approved by the Department of Revenue. And the town has been approved for $69,092 for new growth for this year. That won't change, that's a definite
Okay.
figure. The LA 13 and the LA 15, which is amended new growth and interim year adjustments, have been submitted to the state, but there's no amounts that had to be reported for this year, so both of these are already approved through the state already. And then the LA 4, which is a big thing in town, it's the assessment and classification report that we submit to the state. It has been approved by the state, and the report calculates that the total assessed value in the town for both real estate and personal property. The town has a town-wide increase in value of 7.9% this year, bringing the town to a total of assessed property values to $597,739,137. That is an increase over last year, so currently, this year on our tax rate, $1 raises $597,739, which is an additional increase of $41,000 more dollars for
Right.
this year per dollar on the tax rate.
You said 597,000?
$597,739 is what a dollar raises on the taxes. All these have been submitted and approved by the state as of September 12th. So right now, the CP1, which is community preservation, report was submitted to the state and is pending approval. And the total monies that we committed for surcharges raised and appropriated to community preservation, which is really the end of fiscal 16, but it gets approved in 17, was $120,842.50. Other members on the financial team are continuing to work on the tax recap sheet, and we're hoping to move full speed ahead in the next 2 weeks. We'd like to have a joint meeting with the Board of Assessors at your next meeting, which is November 14th, to do the classification hearing. And as soon as we can finish up that, we can submit our paperwork, and we're hoping our tax rate will be set this year before Thanksgiving.
Great.
So keep our fingers crossed and we'll see if that flies. We continue to do real estate for fiscal 17 for preliminary billings this year. Already we've committed over $4,667,798.52 for tax revenue coming in on preliminary bills. Those are the bills that Kelly just stated that they're paying, so that was the first and second quarter bills.
Okay.
Just a reminder, while we are in open meeting, that tax bills are due November 1st, so for the public, that is due next Tuesday, just so everybody can get in and get those bills paid. One Title V loan has been paid off in fiscal 17. The interest from that goes back into the Board of Health's account so they can have more money to lend out to residents for Title V septic repairs. The principal of that payoff goes back to the town to pay on the debt for that. Just a reminder also that I'm still taking exemption applications in the office, or anybody can stop by with questions or to see if they're eligible. We still take those applications. We like to take them before the bills do go out. Hopefully explains what the Board of Assessors plays in the financial team and what we've been doing so far. And if you have any questions or if you need any documentation, feel free to stop by my office and get that.
Great. Thanks, Louis.
One of the things, Mr. Chairman, that we've done in the past in other communities is, I know LA 13, LA 15, LA 4, this could sound like a lot of mumbo jumbo, and so what we've done, if you're interested, is to have the assessors and the finance team collect the major forms that they have to file with DOR, kind of put a little index together, give you a little sense of what each one's about.
Yep.
And we'd be happy to present that at some point in the future if the board feels that would be of some assistance. I want to touch upon the group insurance, and then I'll give the treasurer's collector unit's report. Kate had a death in the family and is out to tend to that. On the group insurance, as Kelly mentioned, we're hopeful that over the course of the year with some vacancies and such, we may be able to right-size that and, be able to bring that in on budget. At the same time, as we work our way towards your November workshop and budget planning for next year, we'll want to talk with you about an opt-out program, potential, whether or not you want to give that some reconsideration. That pays people who are currently on your insurance. If they're able to switch to other insurance, it pays them a stipend for doing that. If they're not currently on your insurance, no, you don't pay them to stay off. You only pay them to leave. Also, in some communities, I've done a participant audit wherein we actually just check, and sometimes we find that folks are on the insurance that shouldn't be there, not necessarily, through any attempt to gain a benefit, but just because a family didn't understand that a family member should have been moved off the plans. And finally, as we work our way towards budget, and perhaps even this year, we do have some employees who are not full-time, that is, they're not working 40 hours a week, but they're getting insurance, they're above the 20 hours, and perhaps a couple of those positions, we need to look at whether or not to push them down to 19.5. We'll have to consider the operational issues that can pose as well. So there's a couple things for you to be thinking about. With respect to the treasurer-collector unit, the cash on hand as of September 30th was $3,021,156 in the general fund accounts. Unfortunately, approximately $1.2 million of that is tied up in a so-called old vendor account. That is an account for which the town either had not gone through the process of turning funds over to the state treasurer under the unclaimed property program. And that is the program we have to use. I know that at one time, I guess you advertised, and if people didn't come and kept the check, you just swept it back into the general fund. And you can't do that, so we've got to go back through the records. Unfortunately, I found out today that, in fact, some of these checks go back as far as '02. Part of this has to do with reconstructing the checkbook register when you converted and when records weren't kept. So this is going to be a long, slow slog. And I can't tell you right now how much of that 1.2 we will eventually be able to take back into the general fund. And I'd really rather not. We have a rough guess, but it's very, very rough, so I'd really rather not put that number out there.
Makes sense.
The quarter one real estate tax commitment was collected virtually in its entirety. And the problem that I would tell you is that there is no way in the current VADAR system for me to tell you if that 100% payment against the Q1 in fact included prepays against the Q2, that quarter that's due next
No,
week.
yeah.
So that's something we need to try to work with VADAR on, because knowing the delinquencies by quarter really gives you a much better sense of where you are in terms of aging your accounts and what kind of problem you might have down the road. With respect to delinquent taxes, there was about $12,000 delinquent for FY14. You may have seen those advertised in the Gardner News within the past few days. A couple of those have already come off. You'll see red lines go through those. They're out on the bulletin board. I'm going to urge the Treasurer Collectors Unit to move on immediately to FY15. When I've asked why FY15 and FY16 had not yet been advertised, essentially I was told that there wasn't enough money really being budgeted to do that. We need to find that money, because I don't think not collecting money is a great savings to us. And so we're going to add $7,500 to the tax recap, and we hope the DOR approves that in addition to what you've budgeted, so that we can try to become more aggressive on these tax delinquencies.
What's the cost on that?
Well, the Gardner News is relatively expensive in terms of its legal ads, so the 19 parcels cost almost $800 to advertise. And then of those 19, everyone that doesn't get paid off within the next 14 days, we've got to move them to tax title and record those at the Registry of Deeds. And there's another $75
Is that
a piece.
per?
Per.
Wow.
And then your mailings and everything else. So it is expensive to collect delinquent taxes. It is expensive to leave this much money outstanding. So I think that's something we really need to look at in the fiscal 18 budget.
Yep.
We've commented on, we have 86 properties in tax title. Unfortunately, some of those had some incorrect data on them going back to when they were all entered into Vadar a number of years ago. So those will have to come back and be re-advertised. I have brought forward and asked the treasurer collector to look at these. They'll have to work with the assessors because it relates to the values, the land of low value program. There is an alternative means to foreclose on properties and try to move them off our books without necessarily going to land court. It's not as good of a title as if you can give someone a land court title, but with working with the assessors and Department of Revenue, it can be a substantially less expensive means, and we still may find people who are interested in taking the properties even with a title that's not as clean as a land court.
Gotcha.
On the fourth portion of these quarterlies, we'll cover an area of special interest, which may be outside of our control, but we feel that they could pose a risk to your financial health or are problematic in other ways. The sewer department had indicated they might have as many as 350 properties to lien to recover unpaid charges. I understand since this report was written, they've been chipping away at it, and they may be more in the 150 range, is that?
Yeah, that was Kent said today. to me.
Which is certainly a substantial improvement. Nonetheless, even 150 is a fairly large number out of your user base. This does take Luann some time. This doesn't just, it's not a simple mail merge program. It just doesn't happen real quickly. And the larger thing is that it means the sewer department is being deprived of a substantial revenue stream, and anything that impairs their revenue stream impairs their ability to pay us currents and past out money. So we just wanted you to be aware of that.
What would the work hours be for 150 tax liens, Luann? Is that like 2 days, 3
It'll
days?
take me a good day and a half at least to do that, plus I have to do light and water.
So you do all of
I do all
that?
three of the enterprises on the tax bill, so it takes a little while because I gotta look everything up manually.
Okay, all right.
So the intent, Mr. Chairman, is that every quarter, within 3 weeks or so after the conclusion of the fiscal quarter, the finance team would prepare a report similar to this. We really would like your comments on, other information that you might find useful, or should we present it in a different way? If you can give us questions that you might have, send me an email within the next week or so.
Okay.
Then we would get answers back to you at your following meeting. My intent is to have similar reports, subject to your pleasure, if this you think is something you want to do,
Right.
from the public safety team, the community services team, and the public works team.
Yes, exactly.
Those would be the four teams,
Yep.
and they would put together a combined report and come in and present them to you quarterly, would be my intent.
Exactly. Can you talk a little bit about the audits? Is that possible?
Kelly met with Mr. Roselli this last week,
Last
so do you
Thursday.
want to speak to?
Yes, I met with Mr. Roselli, he came to the building. We worked through, listing of items of additional things he would need. They will be here in Town Hall December 12th. They're scheduled out 2 full weeks here with us. When they arrive, they want everything for fiscal 13 ready to go. If I have 14 totally completed, ready to go, They will do all the field work, everything they need for both 13 and 14, get all of that back to their office, and hopefully by, after the first part of the year, they'll be able to, complete those and then get back for, 15 and 16.
Okay.
So potentially, if everything were to go well, we should be on track to hopefully by the end of the fiscal year have those 4 years completed.
Great.
That would be my hope, now that we've been able to engage one firm for the 5 years. We still have a few more dollars we need to find. But my hope is that we have through 16 by town meeting. That's my goal.
Mhm.
And by the time you go to begin preparation for FY19, FY19, that we've gotten 17 closed out, so you have a sense of where you are.
Sure.
And if you can keep on that cycle rolling forward, and then with that, we can get into a cycle whereby the audit's done, it's time to close out the tailings of a prior fiscal year. It's time to be advertising your delinquencies. You just got to find a way to get into that lockstep
Right.
every
The
year,
process.
every month. These are the things that you're doing.
Great. You guys have
So,
any questions?
questions, comments, revisions, other things we can be adding, hopefully, that we can produce without lots of time. The ladies, I think, were a little nervous when I broached this initially, but hopefully it worked out fairly easily for them.
Wasn't bad at all.
I think it would be a good idea to see some of the major, sorry, my throat is sore, forms that you have to fill out, and just as a good guide for us. I know I never want to bother you, so it's a matter of, it would be, it's important for us to know that going forward. Not to be in the way, but to really understand that process, and then it just kind of clicks together. So I think that's a great idea. I personally do like the reports. I know that they're probably not fun for you to do, but to have that, to be able to have good talking points with people who ask and not just going, oh, well, let me ask, it's here, and we're talking about that. I did look over, I will say it was a little bit overwhelming to just kind of look and go, oh, okay, what does that mean? Because it's language that we don't hear all the time, and then I think it'd just be better for me to, look at, okay, where are we over the percentage of where we thought we were supposed to be? And maybe, I know you have some right on the front explanations, but I may want a few others. Maybe it's like the fees are paid now, but they're not ever going to be paid again throughout the rest of the year. Or so I just kind of have to wrap my head around that. I'm not sure what other people were thinking on that, but I mean, there are like 20 items on this particular, for example, the Board of Selectmen, Selectmen office expenses are, instead of being at 25, they're at 31.23. So it'd be kind of nice to know, is there something additional in there that we were not aware of? Or is it just bills that are being paid now? I just don't remember the answer. On the front, under budgeted.
Yeah.
Okay, so, again, that's good to know now, like going forward when we start putting a budget together, because when you said like opt-out insurance, I swear we talked about that. And also tax title money, I thought we had talked about that too, to make sure that we could continue to do that after tallage came. I thought we had that discussion, but now it appears that we don't have that there.
You don't have
So-
enough. I mean, based upon the backlog, based
Okay.
upon advertising alone, you budgeted in the neighborhood of $7,000 to deal with tax title. All that's would do at best is deal with your delinquencies. That even doesn't let you get into the actual tax title itself.
Right.
So I think going through the process and looking at this, and we might have questions, or you might have, kind of go back and forth, okay, well, so that wasn't enough. I might not have
didn't know.
known that, but, you know, to kind of think out that process. And again, these are just one or two particular items, but to look at each, you know, why are you already over? But again, I think it's a good idea quarterly. We wanted to hear from all of you to begin with, you know, to have you come in, and again, it's an extra piece of work for you, but I think it's good for us. It's good for me.
And it's good for the community as well.
Oh, right, and
Yes.
it's, right.
And I definitely like the team concept, I think, going forward. I think that's a good way to handle business. To have the 4 teams, that way we can quarterly have them come in staggered a little bit.
Yep.
So they can brief their, brief their operation and what they're doing logistically and financially, which I think would be great.
Thank you.
Yep.
Paul.
And did you encompass human services as well in that?
I generally would, in an organization this small, put it in the community services
Yeah, he had
team.
said that.
Okay.
What I'll do is I'll take the different departments, boards, and commissions,
Yep.
and I'll put them under each one of those major headings,
Okay,
and see what you think of that, and maybe something needs to be realigned.
so that'd be great. If we can see that, that'd be
Yeah.
perfect, that we can see.
Yep.
Great. All right, anybody else have any questions about the finance team?
Just one, can we, excuse me, we talked about, you talked about having FY 14 and 13 ready in January. Where are we on 15, just so we're,
15 is in the database, and it's completed. However, with all of the corrections and things I've had to make in 13, I now have to pull that forward to 14. Now I'm gonna have to pull that forward to 15 and make all of those adjustments. And same then, you know, I mean, some of them I've done in 16, but I haven't got them all completed. You know, like the CPA funds, you know, and how those were handled, you know, those have all had to change to the way it should be. So, you know, it's those types of things, but 15 is there. It's just me taking, once I can get all the other years and have the good, you know, balances moving forward and be able to make those adjustments.
well, you haven't pulled your hair out and you haven't gone crazy.
No, no.
That's a good thing. That's a good
Yeah.
thing. That's a good thing. Julie, you have any questions for
I
the
don't.
team?
Thank you.
Great, thanks for the presentation, it was really well done. Well done. And I see that, that Brittany arrived?
Yes, I
Hey.
apologize, I thought the meeting was on Wednesday.
Okay,
Okay.
that's okay.
It's set on the 26th.
No, that's all right, that's all right. Obviously, you're looking for an appointment to the Conservation Commission, is that correct?
She came to my last meeting, even though she wasn't appointed, to see what our board was doing, and with her background, I think she'll be a very good fit for our team.
Okay, all right. What's your background?
I'm a
Miss
civil
Sincere?
engineer,
Great,
so I, regularly prepare filings with conservation commissions across the Commonwealth.
wow, great. Awesome.
Welcome to Templeton.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You said that you just moved here?
we just signed the papers on Friday.
Good for you.
So,
really, nice.
She's involved already, now, that's being.
That's good initiative right there. That's great.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much for moving here and coming to our small.
volunteering.
And volunteering for our
Looking forward to it.
community. It's a great community. It's
Yeah.
a great community. All right, can I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Brittany Gessner to the Conservation Commission.
Okay, have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Any other discussion?
Yes.
Thanks, John. Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Yes.
And I vote yes as
Hear
well.
you.
Thank you so much for coming. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. And obviously, good luck with the commission. It's a good program. And hopefully I expect to see some reports from you guys too. All right. Action on the screening committee charge for the new town administrator. Obviously, it was drafted up. Did we get a chance to look at that to see where the left and right limits are? Yes.
Number 6, the town clerk swears people in, not the board of selectmen.
I got you. Okay, I'll get that corrected. Mr. Tenzini, can you go over what the charge means? So we all understand
Sure.
the scope of practice for these 5 individuals?
I think that whenever you appoint a committee of any type to have a charge and composition, and this one was drafted by Richard Kobayashi, I believe, of the Collins Institute, Collins Center. We've found throughout the years that it really is best to give folks a clear sense of direction so that they know what their job is and they don't go astray. And because we found that without that, they can go astray. And then you thought you sent them off to do a mission and they go astray because they didn't have a charge, and you come back in and it's like, where did this come from? That's not what we asked you to do. So to lay this out and identify this is considered to be best practice. In this case, you've appointed the committee with the 5 members, and this names the members. The screening committee would work with the staff of the Collins Center along the lines, and they've specifically cited their scope of services. The screening committee will bring you 3 to 5 candidates as finalists. You're making it clear that you want them unranked and vetted to the extent possible by law. The committee will utilize the profile approved by the Board of Selectmen. In other words, yes, perhaps you think we need this or we need that, but here's the guiding document. Here's the roadmap. This is what the selectmen have said they're looking for. And so, we need to be, the committee, we need to look at candidates that fit this roadmap, because that's the one the selectmen gave us. It makes it clear that the committee shall maintain the names and the information in confidence until it votes its final recommendations. At that point, the finalists it forwards to you become public, and it makes it clear that they're to operate under the Massachusetts open meeting law. And what I've normally done in the past, and I'll work with Carol and with Richard, is usually I'll go in front and say, okay, so now here's some of the rules of the road. Here's the charge. Here's the profile, and here's the open meeting law. And this is what you can and can't do, and here's how email works, and here's how serial conversations work, so you don't make the mistake of thinking that you can talk with each other one-on-one after the dots get connected. And I think it gives them a good map, and their first meeting is November 3rd.
Okay, great.
There is a problem, though. In the charge here, it says that citizens of Templeton are appointed to serve as members of the committee, and 2 of these folks are not citizens of Templeton. Yeah, Mr. Hanks.
So we could
and
just say
Mr.
the
Driscoll.
following persons.
That's right. Yep.
Strike citizens of Templeton, we could say the following persons.
Yeah.
If that met the board's pleasure.
That's fine.
Fine. Anybody see anything else that's,
Other adjustments, so we've got the one noted by Mr. Morrison, the one noted by Mr. Columbus. Other changes the board might wish to make to this? This is your document.
all right, I can't see anything. You good, Jim?
Yeah, I'm
Good.
good.
So I make a motion to approve the Templeton Town Administrator Screening Committee charge and composition document, subject to the 2 corrections, so noted. And
Great.
to be signed, not tonight, but when it's finished by all of us.
Great.
Did I miss anything?
Nope. I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion concerning the committee charge and composition? I see none. John?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you.
Does the public want to know who the people are? If there were 4, and then I just want to be clear on that.
Sure.
So, because Julie wasn't here that day, and we just, when we got this paper, it's Richard Hanks, Derek Hall, John Driscoll, Christopher Cassavant, and Brian Tangway. And again, their first meeting will be on November 3rd.
Yep. And that's here, right, Holly?
It is. At 5:30.
And have we communicated to all of them that that's the meeting date and that they have to get sworn in and?
We'll probably ask Carol if she'll come in and swear the 5 of them in
When they're here.
when they're here for the first meeting.
Right. Good. Awesome.
Save them coming in one by one,
Right.
because we've got to do appointment papers for them also. So you'll have the charge and the appointment papers to sign.
Great.
So when we come in to sign the warrants and stuff, we can sign this too, right, Holly? Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Any old business, any actions we need to discuss?
Not today.
Anyone? Any old business actions? No. Any citizens issues? No citizen issues? Wow. Yes.
Documents that you talked about tonight from the financial team going to be made available on the website?
That's a great question.
We can,
Can we do that? I mean, it's public knowledge.
we can do that.
Absolutely. Yep.
The only thing that we will probably modify to make clearer when we post them, and, you know, I think we put it in your report, is we need to remember these are cash reports.
Right,
We don't do modified accrual or encumbrance accounting here.
right. Did you get that? Yes, sir.
What was the total number of tax delinquent properties in town?
Which year are we talking about? 14,
Were you
15?
talking about?
Yeah, well, 15, well, 14, there was what, 80?
In fiscal 14, there are 19 parcels. In fiscal 15, there are 89 plus or minus parcels. And in fiscal 16, there are 188 plus or minus parcels.
And what's the dollar figures on
Do you
those?
want the dollar figures?
Yeah, what's
So
the dollar?
for FY 14, it's 11,987. For FY 15, it's 73,394. And for FY 16, it's 193,197. This is part of the report that would be posted
Okay.
on the website.
So you'll be able to see
So
that as well.
you can take a look at all of it.
So what you were saying was it's gonna take money to go get this money, right? Is that, okay.
Gotta spend money to make money.
That's, I guess that's business, I guess. All right. That's great. What a great country to live in. Board or staff member comments or reports? Anything, you guys have anything to report?
Yeah, I have some. So, I actually had done some thinking since town meeting, and since I'm not a good on-the-spot kind of person, I hope you all forgive me, I made myself some notes. I feel like it's our duty to carry out the wishes of the residents, and they spoke. And we did promise not to use savings to balance the budget, so the vote confirms that we should stick to what we say. The reasoning for it wasn't well explained because we were unprepared and the lack of leadership that we should always have. We should be sure that the community is well served and that we will need to thoughtfully put together an action plan that has the most impact on the budget and the least impact to the services that our residents need. In that sense, when my thinking, I have some ideas that I wanted to explore with the board, the town administrator, and other department heads, like possibly volunteering to help with the audit, since you just had brought that up, from elected officials, committees, and employees as a shared responsibility to get the job done. When I was elected, there was a $500,000 shortfall. The department heads came together and thought things through that would have the greatest impact on the budget and the least impact to the residents, with services to our community. When everyone is together talking about things, I feel like we can explore all the options, and some great ideas came out of it, like insurance from our former fire chief. We saved some money with that the first year. I also believe that when you are a part of it, you own it and you will support it. We have some of the greatest employees here that really care about all of you, the residents, and that have taken time out of their own to help out and get it done, along with many committee members. And I know that we can accomplish this once again. Those are my thoughts.
Great.
I have some things also. Just on town meeting in general. I thought the annual town meeting was, an unorganized circus, but the special town meeting was even worse. It just appeared nobody knew what was going on. Even us with that last minute change of no longer reading the motions, which I think is crazy, just added to, if I was a person in the audience, especially as my first town meeting, what are these clowns doing? Not having a clue as to what's going on and not having any structure or organization as to how we're going to operate at the town meeting just destroys any kind of confidence that we could ever expect the residents to have in the board. I asked for it after the annual town meeting that we have, an agenda item to talk about how are we going to, run town meeting. Well, we don't run it, but how our part of town meeting is going to be conducted. That never became an agenda item, so I'm, asking again. If we don't act professional or look professional, if we don't act professional and having a professional process, how can we ever expect the residents to have any confidence in us? So that's just town meeting in general. And then I agree with what Diane said. The fact that Article 2 failed and wasn't explained very well, I don't think, because again, we didn't read the motions. That now puts us, in a problem where we've got to solve, this shortfall. And then I saw Carter's email today where we have all these other things in addition to this that we've got to look at. We didn't mention a single word at town meeting by Article 2 not passing that this could cause, cuts in services. In my opinion, we're only offering minimal services to our residents now. It's not like we have, a lot of great things that people get out of their taxes. If we're going to cut services, we should have already had a plan in place and should have communicated to the residents that cutting services is how we intend to, make up this shortfall, if in fact that's what we do. I personally don't think cutting services is the right answer. I think there is money available in expense cuts that could be done that may not necessarily affect services. There's administrative expense that I think could be cut or reduced without affecting services to the residents. So I think that we should have a meeting or workshop, whatever you want to call it, to discuss this specific thing. Just as I said with the budget needs to be its own, its own thing. We can't do a bunch of other stuff while we're doing that. And this is something that we need to focus on. So I hope that, within the near, relatively short term, because we can't, let this go on for long.
Mhm.
We need to take advantage of how much of the fiscal year we have left, to get the problem resolved. So, that's what I have to think.
Okay, great. Thanks, Doug. All great points. Don't you have anything, Jim?
No, I agree with Doug and Diane wholeheartedly on all of it.
Okay, John?
I'll defer to you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe I'll pipe in later.
Okay, all right. Well, he said he'll pipe in late. He wanted me to talk first.
Oh.
And and obviously I didn't plan any type of speech or anything, but, obviously the annual town meeting, I have to agree that the amounts of people that came up to me as well were concerned about, they had no which way was up, they didn't know who was on the stage. Nobody introduced themselves. I mean, I think there should be some type of platform in place where, you got the advisory committee down below, you got you got us up top, you got the attorney on the right, the moderator, where there should be a small, I wouldn't say a large introduction center, but so the people that just moved to town know who their elected officials are, know who their committee members are, their appointed officials are, during a session of an annual or an open town meeting. Now, obviously, I'll take the hit on the not reading the motions. That was brought up, and obviously at the beginning of the meeting, and I knew of some of it during that day, talking to Mr. Tenzini, looking at the motions other than the citizens petition that was on there, Article 8. Everything else was movement of funds, transfer of funds back and forth. The funds that we've already had, moving it to a second account, which we could have put up on the screen, or we could have done a lot of things. We can armchair quarterback this all day long. But if the townspeople want us to read each line item, that I'm okay with that. I was under the impression I was trying to solidify to make things a little bit easier, more cost-effective, and use time management in our favor. That was the process that was put in place. But if the people don't like that, that's fine. I'm okay. I'm here for them. I'm not here for myself. So if they want, we can read those as they come up. I'm okay with that as well in the near future. Workshops are happening. We have our first workshop in November concerning only budgetary responsibilities. Concerning right now 17 with the shortfalls, not only for the 87.5, that was voted down, Article 2, that was voted down, and Diane, you're right. There should have been more response, to the point where, in fact, I got handed a note, but by the time I got to, speak, the moderator already closed, closed the motion. But yeah, it's either we approve where it comes from, meaning at that time frame, the stabilization fund, or it's gotta come out of the operating budget that we have in hand today. But that doesn't preclude next year's 87,500 shortfall as well. Or coming at the end of the year with the unemployment, or coming at the end of the year with potential insurance, and so forth and so on. I can go on for on and on and on about this. So at the workshop, all the stuff will be discussed, and most of us know the issues at hand right now that are facing us and facing the townspeople today. Obviously, there is a lack of trust. There's a lack of incompetence potentially I'm going to say on my part. I'm doing the best I can. I think everybody at this table is doing the best we can on the benefit of the people here in town. I don't want to cut services either. The services here, we have services. People are like, what services do we have? We have services here? Yeah, we have a full-time police department that has 9 officers and a chief. We have a fire department that has 2 full-time personnel. We have a veterans agent in town. We have the staff that works in this building. We have people that work the cemetery department. I think there's 3 plus a part-timer over there. We have the highway department that has 9 personnel, plus a secretary as well. So these are the services that I provide. Are they basic services? Yeah, because most of it's safety conscientious, meaning safety orientated between the fire, police, highway. And then we have our human services such as Council on Aging, such as Veteran Services, such as this building here, and everything that we can do here to help the citizens of Templeton. And I don't want anything to be interrupted in any way, shape, or form. But where the rubber meets the road, if the taxpayers, everything affects the interest rate, the tax rate. So that's the game. And I don't like it. But unfortunately, that's the way it is. We can pretend, make the tax rate $25 1,000, and you can have a whole bunch of services. Adding 2 more cops, add a whole full-time fire department, but I mean, that's not realistic. So we're trying to keep everything where it needs to be. And I know people got a lot of questions with the school, with the fire, with the police station, et cetera. And I wish more people, would come out to these meetings and express their concerns, so then we can field their concerns. Instead of making, getting emails, like I know Diane and I get emails all the time from different, individuals from town asking questions and phone calls and et cetera. But moving on, just know that we're doing the best we can with the resources that we have, and we hope collectively we'll make the best decisions that we can for the citizens of Templeton. So like I said, we do have a workshop date in November. What's that workshop? November what?
9.
November 9th. And that's gonna be here, correct?
It is.
Okay. November 9th, our workshop here concerning the budget. What other questions? Policies on town meeting, agenda items, town meeting.
I think I would like to talk about
Yeah.
how I'm gathering my thoughts. I'm
Please.
sorry, I'm just
No,
not
please,
as
this is
quick
why
as
we're
all
here.
of you.
Why
To
we're here.
how to better. Okay, so we went from having a town administrator who, took that over and did slideshows, and then Carter, you do things differently, and I think that we were just not prepared, and then you have 512 people in the audience
Yes.
expecting things to just, so, I mean, how are we gonna run a meeting? What is the way to do that? Do we, and okay, if we're gonna do the speaking at the town meeting, and I agree, I mean, there's a, down below of us as an advisory board, and whatever the case may be, but how are we gonna do that? Normally we would, read the articles, or they would, now for, I don't know how many meetings they've been up on the, but, what's the best way to handle that,
Well, I
and
know-
to explain what's happening? And I'm not saying we have to talk about that right now, I'm saying, like, if we talk about agenda items, just, so we know that annual town meeting is coming in May. I may or may not be on the board. So it's a matter of who's responsible for what? How are we going to, are there particular pieces? How are we gonna read it? If we're gonna do a presentation, who's gonna be responsible to do that? If it's, what I'm saying? Some people asked me, back when I was sitting in the audience, the accountant always came way back when, and figures, I'm not putting you on the spot, please don't think about that, but when somebody said, so how much is left in that account? Usually, if I remember correctly, Scott Sawyer, right, Julie? He would say, okay, so I look it up and here it is. And I think that the public deserves to know that. It's annual town meeting, and like I said, you haven't been here. It's been a bit chaotic, so there's really, I don't want it to seem like I'm laying blame on anyone.
No.
But it's a matter of, we used to have this, now we don't have that anymore. We used to read them, now we don't have that anymore. So who, is responsible, and to say, it is confusing when you have a committee and a board who butt heads like this consistently. And that, it's just, it's a fact right now. It's not, I don't know what the harm would be sometimes in agreeing on stuff. I think that, but they got 20 copies of a budget, which we did too, and you think that it's right, and it's not right. But to just discredit or not listen to what, people have to say and is wrong. They're a committee of the town, and they definitely serve a purpose, and so do we. And we are the elected officials who can be recalled and who have to answer, my phone blew up that night and the next day after special town meeting, like, oh my God, I'd never come before you. That's horrible, and these are people we want to come back. I would love to have 500 residents come to annual town meeting, wouldn't you? Because, instead of just, not, the business of the town is not just one department or one, and it happens that way, and that is democracy. But I'm just saying, imagine if we could all work better together to accomplish the goals for everyone in our community. So how are we gonna do that? It's just, I think that would make for I think it's part of the workshop that we've talked about, because it's really not about us or about any committee, it's about them that we serve.
That's right.
The manner that you want to present and do those things, I would suggest, could be part of the board's operational rules that
Yeah.
were discussed at the at the workshop, and then you can codify how you want these things done. And I do believe that it would be helpful to include the moderator to some extent, because normally the sponsor of the article or the maker of the motion is recognized first to explain what it's all about, as opposed to going directly to the budget committee, the advisory committee. So you've got your workshop on the 9th, which is geared towards FY 18, setting those priorities. And frankly, those priorities that you set for FY 18 will be a very useful tool in laying out a plan to close the gap. So you've got the first workshop in December that perhaps Julie and Diane would have a draft of the operational rules. You would have decided the priorities for FY 18 to guide that. By then, the department heads would have had an opportunity to look at opportunities to close these gaps. I would have had an opportunity to speak with each one of you. Doug, we had a chance to chat just a few moments on some different ideas. That takes time to run all those ideas down and put numbers to them.
Right.
And look at that operationally. And by the December workshop, the guidance memo for 18 will be out the door. So I think that planning that for what I'm going to call the gap closing and, format planning or, operational planning for the board and for town meeting might make a great subject for that meeting.
Well, I definitely using strategic planning at this point going forward for 18, 19, going forward, I think it's going to be beneficial in these workshops.
Yeah, Diane hit on a point exactly why I have proposed a couple of times that when we go through the budget process, that we do an interactive cycle with the advisory committee, so that we have the opportunity to sit down face to face and talk about, what are their views of the budget, what do they see that is, a potential problem versus what's our view of the budget, so that we can hopefully come to an agreement or a cohesive agreement before we go to town meeting. So, the cycle that I had, proposed a couple of different times now is that, we look at it, we give it to them, they look at it, then we meet jointly. Any discrepancies, then we, go through the process again until that we can try to iron out, or come to a stalemate that, no, we're not, budging on that. So, I think that process would be very beneficial to us if we were to do that.
Okay.
Well, it's kind of like talking about a budget in real time. Whereas, we get it, and then we give it to them, and then we never talk to them. And then we get another piece of paper that's not really right, and then we're not really talking to you, we're just talking at you. And it's not been beneficial.
No,
And more importantly, again, it's not beneficial to the community, and that's who is really.
I think that
The
we've put the
ultimate
effort
person.
forth, though. I do have to make a comment on that. We have invited them to sit down and go back and forth. And it hasn't happened yet.
Well, we had one meeting.
Yeah, I didn't get to be at that meeting, but I'm saying like
It went
through
well. I thought it went very
the
well.
last process, we didn't get
Right,
to do
through the
that. And I
la-
guess I just want to make sure that we can, and
I-
to really bridge that gap,
We definitely need to bridge the gap. Absolutely.
So. And I think, I just want to understand, like, the workshop was for FY 18, except we have a deficit, so to speak, for this year. And when are we going to do that? And for me personally, I'll just express my personal opinion, I liked it when we got together in a room with the department heads at the same time. Give them some time to look at their budget. I would like to give you my ideas, because I have like 10 of them. And some of them aren't fun, and they're tougher decisions, but what do they have to say? They're the ones who know how they're dealing with the public, and how, what the public wants, maybe even more than we do, because that's who you serve, especially Council on Aging, veterans, cemetery, parks and cemetery. These are people who need, every department is important, but I'm just saying, when you are front facing, to someone, then we have to really think about where the least impact for the service will be, but the greatest impact of the budget. So to just kind of, oh, hey, Diana, what do you think? Or that's too much for me. You know, I like the whole, let's talk about it thing, because again, when we did it in a room, these guys talked to each other and said, nah, I don't need that, you can have it. It was amazing, just amazing. And again, I think that we have some of the greatest employees around, hands down, volunteering time, don't, you know, anyway,
I agree.
y'all know how I feel, so,
I do.
Personally,
Couple comments, John?
yeah, I think.
Go ahead, Diane, sorry.
if I have to lose a person, it's not gonna be the last person in, it's gonna be the least impacting to the business for me, every day for me, that I'm gonna have to make a choice.
We're not saying any
I'm
choice
not
like
saying-
that even has to be made, I'm
Right,
saying
if-
to
Right.
talk
We would use the
about that, who
directors.
knows?
The impact that's gonna have on any department head
Because,
here in this town, it's gonna come from the director of that department.
I hope so.
We are not gonna say, hey, you're gonna lose X, Y, and Z, that's not gonna be the case. The input from you is what's gonna be important, the input from all the staff is what's important here. We all work together collectively for the same commonality, which is the town of Templeton, and what services we provide, and how we can maintain those services. You know, like I always said it, that, you know, we want filet mignon, but we're on a ramen noodle budget. And how that ramen noodle is gonna be spread between the entire community and to maintain the services that are being provided. But again, we haven't even gotten to our first workshop yet, and again, we still need to talk about 17. I know that first one's about 18, but we definitely might wanna look at
Well,
some other.
definitely, now we know how to, we have to.
Well, the idea
close
is,
some of
the
the gap.
idea is that, you know, when you set your priorities for 18, that will help guide your cuts on 17. And
Understood.
obviously, you know, the department heads will start tomorrow morning. We'll add everything to the mix. Collectively, you know, we'll come up with a staff approach and guided by where you're headed for next year.
Mhm.
Because if there's something that is lower priority, we might as well start dealing with it right now. There's no need in waiting until June 30th.
Right.
We might as well shape budget cuts or retrenchment in service around it mid-year. So I think that the first workshop in December actually will work out fairly well.
Okay. All right. Yes,
Let me-
John, if I may,
Yeah.
we were just talking between department heads in the building today and stuff, and the consensus from most of the department heads are, if we're gonna have cuts or whatever, we rather take them now and
Yeah,
not wait till
I
January,
agree.
February, because you're talking November, December, January, that's 3 months of money we can be saving and not being wiped out come May, June. So, I mean, as far as cuts, everybody in the building we've talked to today is more
That's
on
why I'm
board
saying
with
they don't-
sooner, better. Yeah, I know your workshops are November, December, but that's kinda how we're looking at it.
Well, I
know we
think the
have that
other thing
freeze.
is too, is that we meet twice a month. And I think that in a way, we, sometimes we have to meet more because there are things that just have to get done. And that's just the way it goes. And I think that talking about this is critical. And I agree, like not waiting. We're just kind of extending the pain, so to speak. So, yeah, if I were to have to make any suggestion today, I would like to make a motion as to when the next time is that we could meet, that we could have some things from the department heads and the town administrator, and we've given all of our ideas to you because we cannot talk to each other, but to just say, you know, when's the next time that we could actually have a meeting?
When's that workshop?
Wednesday.
The 9th.
Yeah, so right now it's just before, I mean, that workshop is one thing. It's-
Can we do something on the 2nd, which is Wednesday, which gives the directorates a week and a half,
This week?
the 2nd of November?
Oh, okay.
Is that too soon?
I personally cannot, I have a horticulture advisory meeting,
Okay.
but
Do it
Sorry.
another night.
The next day is gonna be the
I'm a
9th, which is
very
the
active
fall.
woman.
And we already have the 9th already scheduled.
Well,
So that
okay,
gives
so
them
we
2
have,
weeks.
if we do the 9th, and we're gonna talk about that anyway, so maybe I don't know, I just don't want it to go until December or January is really all I'm saying. So maybe we could.
No, I think the directors had it right on, I mean, why delay
Right,
the inevitable
I don't wanna
potentially?
delay
I mean, the longer we wait, the worse it's gonna be.
Understood,
So we
understood.
would already have a meeting on the 14th, correct?
Yes.
And we don't particularly have any agenda items right now, so bada bing, why don't we just make it about that?
Classification here.
Yeah, you're gonna have a full agenda.
Yeah.
We do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, black
We
tag,
have a full
okay,
agenda.
sorry.
Yeah, that's why we're trying to shift all the finance stuff we want on its own day, and that's all we talk about is the finances. If it's, talk about 17, or if we're going to talk about, looking at 18, and start using the plan in place.
Well, without knowing like what we're gonna do in 17, maybe we should talk about the 18 in December and use the November 9th meeting to do the current year. I know
Well-
that's probably
Or we
not.
could meet on a different day, like November 1st.
Well, that won't work, because, go ahead.
The problem, Mr. Chairman, with deferring the FY18 is then I can't get the budget guidance memo out.
Right.
And I know that this cut is going to be difficult to deal with. It's most unfortunate that it has to be dealt with at all. But quite frankly, it's not a crisis.
Right.
And my fear is, so I've had some different proposals today. One was just taking X% across the board on everybody. My fear is, and there's some merit to that, but there's some drawbacks to it also. And my fear is that without enough time to properly plan, we'll be grasping at straws and coming up with what we think is the quickest, fastest, easiest thing to do, when what you need to do is to take a little bit of time and come up with a plan that's going to be melded into 18 and is sustainable.
When's the all-in committee meeting? Did we plan that already?
We did. That is,
That's in November as well, right?
that is November what?
21st.
21st. Now, we haven't sent notices out on that.
Right.
Certainly, if the board would like, we could try to be, we could be prepared to discuss FY17 that evening and move the all committees to the first Monday of December. The all boards. I think all we did so far was post it, if we can get it. We just need to
Okay.
check, see if we can find a spot.
You guys agree with that?
Sure, works for me.
Because I agree, rushing into a decision, may not be the best thing.
No, there's no.
We gotta give the department heads time to get their thoughts together.
Yep.
Communicate those to Carter, let Carter get our thoughts, and put all of that together so that we can have a meaningful
Yep.
discussion.
So if it meets the board's pleasure, if we can locate a spot that will host the all boards meeting for the first Monday of December,
Mhm.
we'll slide the all boards to that
Sure.
and be prepared to talk about FY17
On the 21st.
on the 21st.
Sounds good.
Whatever that is.
Yep.
How big a spot do you need?
50.
Large.
50. We think we'll have 50 people attending
In a circle.
In a circle?
in a
Do they fit
circle.
At the COA, is that what you're thinking?
Well, we can work this out technically over the next day or two.
The logistics, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Does that meet with everyone's,
Yeah, sounds good to me. Advisor Chairman, you had some thoughts too as well, didn't you not? Can you send those to Carter concerning the FY17 budget?
We haven't talked about them as far as the committee, so,
No, when you get to be, when's your next meeting?
on the 12th, and we pretty well have a full agenda
Okay.
right now, because we're actually gonna be talking, just like you, we'll be talking about some things that we wanna take and end up looking at to help prepare for FY18.
Understood.
Like financial management trends.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else besides? I only have one other thing to add.
John does.
Yeah. Oh, John?
Go ahead.
Well, my thing is, committees, boards, elected or appointed, utilization of town property. There obviously is not a policy in place for that to take place. But obviously, equipment was used, paper was used, time off a machine was used. Obviously, that really should not happen. I mean, if the committee or boards want to use town property, which, as long as they talk to the town administrator, I mean, I really have no issue, but as long as it comes, it's approved by the town administrator, or if it's gotta come to the Board of Selectmen for approval, then we can do that as well. But the utilization of town property, especially during the workday, we're utilizing a printer, scanner, whatever, for 20, 30 minutes, taking it away from the day-to-day operations of this facility, is really not conducive to the work environment here. So, in the future, if there's any committee or board that wants to utilize, town property for whatever reason, just get the approval of the town administrator, and I will work on some set policy that stipulates the fact that that will need to take place. John, do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to comment something that Diane said earlier about the accountant having information available at town meeting. Well, if you look at the cesspool from 13 and 14, she can't guarantee necessarily that the information she's going to give is correct. So I think we have to take that into account.
Well taken.
I really have some questions I think we have to look at in terms of what our roles and responsibilities. If it's a board's responsibility to make a recommendation on a specific subject or action,
Right.
how appropriate is it for them to have a role in formulating that decision? When does that become a conflict?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a question that we have to take seriously.
Right, no, you're right. Well, I think, hopefully with the new workshops, a lot of the stuff can be worked out and addressed, and identified and worked through, and utilizing the staff. Well, they're voting, nice. Utilizing the staff to come up with suggestions, ideas, and stuff like that, because that's where I think where the rubber meets the road, that's what's gonna be beneficial for the community. But yeah, you're right, I think, roles and responsibilities, I think a lot of good things will take place,
I think we have to look too, you mentioned that question 2 didn't pass. Question 2 got a majority vote and fell short of 2/3. There was some unauthorized, and I don't know how factually correct information put out there, that could have very well influenced that vote.
Yeah, like Diane said, there was definitely, I think it should have been explained better.
It could have been?
Yes, and again, that's my responsibility, that's my fault.
Well,
Because again, I mean, the buck has to stop somewhere, so unfortunately, it sits in my lap. So I can't live in the past. It was, obviously, I won't make that mistake again, and I'll make sure that people are fully addressed and aware of what's going on within the surroundings of the town of Templeton and their financial stability here, or instability in some cases. Anybody else have anything else?
Can I
Yes.
I'm curious, for like at a town meeting,
Mhm.
we have the warrants. All the other documents that there are that come with, the flyers and stuff, is that really necessary?
Well-
Because I think that causes a lot of confusion with people
Uh,
of, what they're looking at, and I just wondered why that happens.
You're right. There was some confusion with multitudes of things, the flyers, and there was the handout the advisory committee put on the table. But like in all cases, the moderator is the approving authority for any type of solicitation or paperwork that needs to be put out. If it's either by the Board of Selectmen or any other board or committee, it has to be pre-approved by the moderator. I know that the advisory committee didn't have prior approval on that day, but that night, the moderator did approve the handout that was printed off by the advisory committee, and he let that go out. Now, again, working with the advisory committee, working with the finance team here in this office here, I think is gonna be crucial to the numbers that are put out. So whatever numbers that the advisory committee puts out, they're gonna stand by their numbers and say they're factual. But the numbers that the town puts out, that the elected officials have to sign off on, are these numbers, which are different numbers. So they're skewed. So then the people are concerned, like, who am I listening to? Am I listening to the advisory committee? Am I listening to the elected officials? Who's right? I have to stand by the people that work in this building and support the advisory committee and the other committees that are out there, but understand that I have to support this building and my fellow, selectmen, and the financial staff that's here, the team that's here, the financial team that's here. And I think if there was some talk between, or more talk between the, financial team and the advisory committee, where numbers, you work together to get numbers. How'd you get that number? I got it by this way. That I don't know if that's possible or feasible. I can talk to the town administrator, but I mean, like Diane said, I mean, we have to work collectively together for the commonality of the people, and, putting out their numbers, and then we have our numbers, and the people are all confused, and next thing you know, we're not reading, because we look at an STM as, their money transfers. I don't like reading, this is going from, John Caplis's, services to these 5 other services, because we're gonna take 5,000 from him, and, it just doesn't, I would like to see it as a slideshow maybe, where the people can actually see it, but they also have their handouts, and I didn't wanna insult anybody, I'm sure that everybody got a copy of the handout. But again, if the people want it read, then it will be read. Anything else? Yes?
I just want to say in public, so that everyone hears it that watches TV and everyone here knows it. One day, it might have been the day before the special town meeting, I was with a client, and the other person that was in the building closer to the front door was with the client, and someone came in and laid a handout about the school on the front reception area and left the building. I don't allow one way or the other, for, against, I don't care which way it is. You know this personally, John.
Yes, I do.
I don't allow any
Solicitation?
of any kind
Roger.
in the building,
Right.
and this person knows that. So I'm just saying it in the public one more time. I don't allow that. It was not left out. Those were thrown away, and it's just not something I do, whether
No,
I
it's not.
agree or disagree.
There is a statute that concerns that with state, federal, and town buildings. So there is a statute that protects states, that protects town buildings for any type of, positive or negative. It doesn't matter, that's why there's no signs outside for any type of, presidential candidate. We just can't do that. And obviously, as a council on aging director, managing your facility, you did the right thing. I wish you were able to catch him on the way in.
I know who it
That would have been
was,
bad for him. Bad for him. But thank you for that. Anything else?
I'd just like clarification on, because it was such a topic, on the legality of the citizens petition, that how I was always told that citizens petitions are not reviewed by town council. Not really given a full definition, it's just the way that it is, but in this case, it was a $47 million project, and, we could have known that ahead of time, but what is the real ruling on that? Whose ruling is that supposed to be? And, we have lots of different citizens petitions, but I'm not saying we have to answer that today, but I believe
we
that
can
the.
answer
I'll
it.
be happy to answer.
We'll answer
Oh, okay,
that.
great.
The entirety of the warrant goes to town council,
Oh,
everything,
yeah.
as one document. Now, with respect to, and he had us reword 1 or 2 of them, I don't remember
There's 2 of them.
exactly, certainly the drainage warrant
Mm-hmm.
one.
The easement.
With respect to the citizen petition, he asked me to be prepared to verify that evening if money had been spent against the article. He came in and we advised him that money had been spent against the article. Therefore, he ruled that it was illegal. I do wish that perhaps he'd gone to the microphone and explained to the meeting why it was illegal. That perhaps would have helped. But it's the moderator's meeting, and I have to defer to the moderator. But all warrant articles go to town council for review. At least for the one warrant I've done for you and for all the warrants I've done every place else, Diane.
So if there are, we've had some, okay, great, that was not my understanding. So
That was not my
How
understanding
come
either.
that question couldn't have been
Is
asked?
that yours?
Ahead of time. I mean, that's
I was under the
has money
impression-
been spent? Yes. No, it's a 2-second question. Why did he have to wait till town meeting?
He wanted me to verify it that night. I didn't necessarily know right that minute what the accounts were coming from. But, yeah, I mean, I suppose we could
Well,
have done a
I
better
think
job on that one.
it's my understanding that you're obligated to put a citizen petition
Regardless.
on the warrant,
No matter what.
has it
Oh, I'm
been
not,
submitted.
I'm not questioning that at all. Oh,
So-
no, no,
So
no, no.
that,
I'm questioning,
if
like,
that
does
question on
town
its face is
council?
illegal, it's illegal.
Yeah, but what she's saying is if this was sent to
That's
town
not what I
council,
said.
why weren't we notified earlier that it was a illegal citizens petition, so we can at least let the people know, maybe potentially ahead of time, or if we
Yeah, it
can
would've
legally do
been-
that even. I don't even know legal, can we do that? I don't know.
That's kind of what I'm if, I didn't realize the whole warrant went. Okay, that's number one. So
That's-
that's always happened.
That's always been my practice.
So
and it was
all
my
8
practice here.
articles went, and
Absolutely.
there was one question: was money spent on the article? I could have told you that.
Right.
I'm on the building committee, and we put forth bills. So was that spending money? So I could have answered that.
Right.
So okay, so that was a terrible instance. But so where we've had warrants with like 5, 6, it doesn't matter if it's 2 citizens petitions. Okay, fluoride. Sorry, Julie. Do he review?
Don't
Do
be
they
sorry.
review? I'm just saying that it's the first thing I can think. Okay, the fluoride. The street. Sometimes I agree with what you say.
They're reviewed.
So the roads. I mean, we've had stuff with Cook Pond Estates. Who reviewed that? I was always just told, nope. If they want it reviewed, that they have to have their own lawyer. I don't know if that was true now or not.
I want to distinguish between the role of town council as the moderator's advisor. Because
Maybe that's
at
what I
town meeting, you gotta remember, it's not your meeting,
Right.
it's the moderator's to run. And the town council is there, in fact, this is the first time I've been to a meeting where I wasn't sitting next to town council, he was over there. But the town council's role is to advise the moderator. He does review citizens' petition, but it's not his role to figure out how to fix them and to advise the petitioners what to do. They're frankly on their own.
Okay.
Now, I do always encourage folks who are going to file petitions to come and see me if I should be here at that time, but you will have found a permanent administrator by then, to come and see the town administrator so that there can be some advice given on proper language. Because what happens is if they hand you a petition that has problematic language and it passes, it's the staff that has the problem of trying to administer it.
I see.
So if someone for the spring is planning to file a citizen's petition, by all means, come see us. And we can at least try to, help with the commas or the numbering or the concept, so that, in one community, we had a citizen's petition to prohibit fireworks during certain hours of the day. Well, they got the whole day wrong. And we had to enforce it the way it was for a year till we could fix it. If they had just come in, we could have done that with them ahead of time.
But that could have been amended by them in presenting the motion.
Could have been amended by them when they presented the motion, but they didn't. I mean, I've never gotten in the middle of
Wow.
trying to fix a citizen's petition. That's their right.
Right.
They submit it, they propose it, they pass it.
But we're under no obligation to provide them legal counsel.
No. No.
Particularly if you're not in favor of the action that's being proposed.
Understood.
Just make one quick comment, John.
Yes.
In regards to Article 8, and I've made this, I think other people have seen it, I've made it in other places.
Mm-hmm.
It's that this process to build a school has been going on for at least 15 years. We've looked at many sites, we've gone through.
How many
different-
sites was it?
Diane, you have any idea how many sites?
Doesn't matter.
Numerous.
Okay, numerous.
But the point is that we went through this process, we made the presentation to the state. It passed the ballot, a ballot question. It passed by 2/3 at a town meeting. I think to further try to rescind it, I think is really disrespectful of the democratic process, and it's disrespectful to the people who put in all that time and effort to make it happen.
Oh, thanks. No. Thank you for that. Anybody else have anything else? Yeah? We don't need to go into executive session,
I
correct?
have nothing tonight.
Fantastic.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Second?
I have a motion, a second. John?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug? And I vote yes as well. Thank you all for coming, and you